Hello and welcome to Toad Rolls Dice, where we're going to take another look at the Horus Heresy 3.0. This time, we're taking a look at them big guns, with the rules in the Age of Darkness, investigating the new weapon stats. I love the design of the Heresy weapons. I think they're just cooler. Maybe I should get some Heresy weapons and put them on the Space Wolves. Brain, stop it. You're already planning too much, just stop it. But let's run through this one. There are some seriously dangerous weapons on the battlefields of the Age of Darkness. Lethal wonders of mankind's golden age have been unearthed, and as the Imperium has only just begun its slow slide into inexorable entropy, some of them still work properly. I adore Volkite. I think Volkite just looks so cool. Plasma looks pretty cool as well. Shoulder-mounted las cannons, you remember when those were a thing? Heavy bolter, thunderhammer, and then the chainsword. They just look cooler. They really do. The new edition of Warhammer the Horus Heresy has given every weapon in the game a new profile, incorporating new stats and abilities. Many of these will look familiar, but there is more granularity and utility on the more exotic weapons, while ranged weapons and melee weapons have slightly different stats. Let's take a look. The Humble Bolter. Range, I'm guessing that's range. Yeah, so we'll do that so we can see what this is. Range 24 inch, I think that's probably standard. FP firepower is 2. So firepower is the number of shots the gun gets per activation. Okay, 2-shot bolters, nice. Range strength is 4, which I think is standard. So range strength, this stat used to be called strength. This is a subtle change that allows special rules to apply modifiers according to source. So they're probably differentiating between ranged strength and melee strength. AP 5. So that sounds really good to me. It probably isn't, it is just a bolter. For AP is armor penetration. This works as it did before. For those who are unfamiliar, any unit whose armor save is equal to or worse than a weapon's AP won't get a save. A bolter, for instance, will tear through tech thralls, but Space Marines retain their 3-up save. So what does AP do? Right, so that is AP. So an AP of 5 means anything with a save of 5 or 6 doesn't get a save. Okay, it's different to what I'm used to, but okay, as long as that's the same, that's fine. And then the big D is obviously for damage. So this is a new stat for the Age of Darkness, but it should be familiar to players of other Warhammer systems. It shows how many wounds or hull points it strips from the target. So the bolter is damage 1, it has no special rules. Traits, bolt. Bolters now always have 2 shots, rather than only when within half range. That's quite a strong change. This makes tactical squads a much more useful mid-range threat, especially as the Fury of the Legion rule still exists. A squad of 20 Astartes can fire 60 shots across the battlefield. This is the other thing I have with giant point games. You just need a billion dice for anything, and shooting phases and things just take forever. But I guess that's a good thing if you're into Heresy. Does this mean that this edition's overall everything's going to do a lot more damage? I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know. Remember, all of this is in isolation. We're just running off the 3 articles that we've had so far and what they said in the preview, half of which I've forgotten. Hopefully you guys remember. Probably if you're invested in the Horus Heresy, you'll have remembered a lot more than me. But 2-shot bolters, squads of 20, Fury of the Legion rule gives you 60 shots at a 24-inch range. They're all 1 damage, which, you know, it's not huge, but that's still a lot of shots. And I suppose with how AP works against thralls and things, that's a lot of dead thralls, but Space Marines, not so much. But I quite like the 2-shot bolter thing. I think that's quite fun. Heavy bolters, meanwhile, benefit from a new rule, Heavy FP. The Heavy rule grants a weapon a bonus to another stat if the bearer hasn't moved. In this instance, it's firepower. So a Space Marine who stands and shoots with a heavy bolter gets 4 shots or 3 when he's moved. So range 36 inch, FP 3 so he can fire 3 shots, but if he doesn't move, if he stays still because of heavy, it boosts his FP. So it only adds 1 by the looks of it, but he gets 4 shots, which is quite a nice buff. Range strength is 5, so it's slightly better than a bolter, as you'd expect. AP 4, so again, slightly better than a bolter, but still only 1 damage. So heavy is just a +1. Okay, that's standard, you know what heavy is. Weapons with the Heavy X special rule gain +1 to a characteristic when stationary. So they have to be stationary. I quite like this. So they have to be stationary, but it can affect any of the stats. So you could have heavy AP, you could have heavy damage, you could have heavy strength, or range strength. Yeah, Okay, this adds quite a lot more granularity to weapons. I'm on board with this. Yesterday's video I was a bit negative on. So far I'm on board with this. So, heavy and full. When making a shooting attack with a weapon that has the Heavy X special rule, a modifier of +1 is added to a characteristic if the model with that weapon is part of a unit that remains stationary in the controlling player's previous movement phase. If the characteristic listed is AP, then instead it improves AP by 1 step. The value of X in the specific variant of the Heavy X special rule determines which characteristic gains the +1 modifier. I quite like this. This sounds good. Las cannons. The las cannons mean you've got a heavy D. Look at them go. Other heavy weapons can receive bonuses to other stats. A las cannon fires no faster, but a stationary operator is able to be more precise. So it has heavy D. Damage, not what you were thinking of earlier. A stationary legionary armed with a las cannon can potentially kill a Terminator with each shot, but not a Saturnine Terminator who has 3 wounds. So las cannons, range 48 inches, FP 1, sounds like that's always just going to be 1 shot as standard. Range strength of 9, which is probably quite good. AP of 2, which is very good, but only damage 1. It does have heavy D, so if you stay stationary you get damage 2. It also has Armor Bane, which I'm guessing just messes up vehicles. Traits, las. So it looks like traits are going to be for certain weapon groups as well. So maybe I don't think there's stratagems and stuff in Horus Heresy, but maybe certain legions or certain factions will get boosts to las weapons, bolt weapons, melter weapons, flamers. Potentially there's more things you can do there. That might be an interesting way of playing with each legion having their own flavour. That's just me theorising, by the way. Melter guns are as devastating as ever, and worse at close range. Melter 6 grants Armor Bane within 6 inches and doubles damage to a Mighty 6, enough to pop a Deredeo Dreadnought or a Predator tank in a single hit. It's a melter. I guess that would make sense. If you're within 6 inches and you're firing a melter, you're probably going to do a lot of damage. But taking out a Predator sounds pretty big. So melter is a 12-inch range, FP of 1, range strength of 8, AP 2, so again very good, damage 3, but melter 6 traits melter. And as mentioned, melter 6 just means it does 6 damage. It's not an extra 6 damage, meaning it does a total of 9 from how I'm reading this. It just does a flat 6 damage if you're within... No, that's the range, isn't it? Right, so melter 6 means within half range, so 6 inches, you double your damage. Right? Am I getting that right? It doesn't say anything about Armor Bane, but maybe the melter special rule, somewhere wherever that keyword melter is, it'll state that it gives that weapon Armor Bane, whatever Armor Bane does. Or does Armor Bane mean double damage to just vehicles? Hopefully Armor Bane is something familiar to Heresy 2.0 players. It probably is, I've heard it mentioned before, but that sounds deadly. Not every target will die so easily. Most tanks have more hull points than they did in the last edition, to compensate for the fact that some guns are better at causing damage. So there is a general uptick in damage for this edition then. They've tried to give certain things more hull points, which is good, but we're seeing a bit of creep here, I think. So some guns are better at causing more damage, while some units, Primax in particular, have Eternal Warrior X, reducing the number of wounds they take for each hit. We of course need to look at disintegrator weapons, as you're about to see far more of these in battles thanks to the Saturnine box set, which I'm assuming is dropping very soon, next couple of weeks. So the disintegrator rifle, range 24 inch, firepower of 1, range strength 4, AP 3, damage 2, special rules overload 1, traits disintegrator. Overload 1, what does that do? These are high risk, high reward weapons. Overload 1 means that any rolls of 1 to hit target your own squad, so they explode basically. But in return, you get a gun that punches right through enemy power armor with enough force to stop a veteran legionary in his tracks. Yeah, it's dangerous though, isn't it? Yeah, okay. It makes sense that they would explode. They're overtuned plasma by the sounds of it. Melee weapons also have new stats. Like range weapons, they also have armor penetration, AP, and damage, the big D, but they also have 3 stats that modify the wielder's base stats. So initiative modifier IM shows how quick to strike a weapon is. The heavier a weapon, the slower it makes you in combat. Makes sense. Attacks modifier, or AM, some especially quick or paired weapons will grant additional strikes. Strength modifier SM shows how much this weapon bolsters the strength of a wielder and how hard it hits. Here's a look at how this works with the classic power weapon lineup. So power swords, IM1, AMA, right, I'm gonna get confused with this. Let's keep this up the top here as well. So initiative modifier of 1. I'm guessing that means +1 because a power sword will cut through the air literally. Attacks modifier is A, so A I will work on the basis that that is just the base attacks of that model or that unit. Whatever, so 1, 2, 3, Primarch's like 27, I don't know. Strength modifier is S, so that will be the strength of the unit wielding it, if my understanding of previous editions of different Warhammer games relates to this. AP of 3 and damage 1. Special rules breaching 6+, and traits power. Breaching, I don't know what that is. I'd assume it's like punching a hole in something. So if you roll a 6, does that trigger breaching, which triggers more damage or more AP or something? Maybe we'll find out down below. But power swords, low damage, no strength increase, but they're much quicker. They make your units quicker initiative. Power axe, initiative modifier -1, so you're slightly slower. Attacks modifier is A, which I'm working on the theory that that is just the base that that unit has. Strength modifier is +1. Working on the theory that Space Marines are strength 4, that would put them up to strength 5, which is quite nice. AP of 3, much like the power sword. Damage 1, much like the power sword. Special rules breaching 5 up, so they probably, well, they do trigger that breaching rule on a 5 and 6 instead of just a 6, would be my complete guess on this. And traits power, the final one, Power Fist. Initiative modifier -3, so they are very slow to swing. Attacks modifier A, so again, just like the others, no increase, no decrease. Strength modifier +4, pretty nice. And working on the theory that Space Marines are strength 4, that would put a Power Fist on strength 8. AP of 2, so pretty brutal. Damage 2, quite nice. No special rules. Traits power. Looking at that, I would probably want to take, I don't know, it depends what breaching does. Axes are cool, power axes are pretty cool. The extra strength is nice. So you lose 1 initiative, but you gain extra strength, whereas with a sword you gain initiative, but your base strength. I don't know, swords and axes are probably depending on who you're running. If you're doing Space Wolves, you're going to take axes. That's just how it is. That is known. You might run a couple of swords here and there. I don't know, it depends. There's not a huge amount of difference. But what I love about this, what I love about Heresy, is that weapons have individual profiles for different things. Power sword is a profile. Power axe is a profile. Chain swords will be a profile. That granularity, that list building, that way of just equipping units and kit bashing cool things because you have customization options that matter in the game, that is still here for this. That is the one thing that will pull me heavily into Heresy, depending on what happens with 40k 11th edition, which we think is next year. If they don't add in custom weapons, proper list building with points, I can see myself kind of falling out of 11th, depending on what they do. And Heresy seems to be the place that people fall into next. Because it's how Warhammer used to be. List building matters. What you equip your units with matters. That's what all of this article is telling us. It's telling us you have all of this choice of weapons. They have all of these different skills. You can spec into different things. This is really, really cool. This is what I was hoping we would get. And I like all of this. There are some tough choices in terms of the best way to kit out your squads and characters, which is what games like this need. Are you aiming to strike first and fastest, or risk going second, but hitting with more force? Not every model has a fancy sword, of course, but everyone has a basic weapon, so no one has to miss out of the fun of combat. So a basic close combat weapon. The basic close combat weapon represents a warrior kicking, punching, or otherwise using their raw physical prowess and improvise weapons to inflict harm on the enemy. It may only be used when a model has no weapons with the melee trait, so this is just a fallback, okay. A basic close combat weapon has the melee trait and the following profile, so traits, melee, no special rules, initiative modifier 1, interesting. That's not a 1, is it? That's an I. So initiative modifier I, they could have made that a bit easier to understand. Just like make it a 0. So there's no bonus, which makes sense if you're swinging your fists or whatever. Attacks modifier A, so no increase. Strength modifier strength, so no increase. AP absolutely 0. Damage 1. So it is just a damage 1 base swing. Like it says, basic close combat weapon. That 1 and that I, yeah, that's not good. They really need to have thought about that a bit better, I think. Or maybe have these color coded. So green, have your pluses in green, your minuses in red, and then your bases in blue. I don't know. I think that they could have done that better, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, it increases. It does not increase. So is that an I then? That's an I, isn't it? Jesus Christ, GW. Power Sword hits on your initiative. Yeah, it's an I. So how they've written these, and Heresy players probably know this, and this is just me not used to this stat lines, but having an I and then having a 1 is a bit stupid. That should be something, just have that as a initiative modifier should always be a number in my brain. But apart from that, so a Power Sword doesn't make you swing any faster, you swing at your initiative, an axe is slightly slower, Power Fist is much slower. Base combat weapon is on your initiative as well. So far we haven't seen anything that increases your initiative modifier. Right, okay. That's the only negative I've seen in this article so far. There are hundreds of weapons in the Age of Darkness. Full stats for each army can be found in their Liber book, most of which will be released alongside the Saturnine box set. And that's it from the Horus Heresy this week. But check back on Monday for one of the most fun rules revisions of the new edition, the Challenge Step. You've never seen a more narratively satisfying addition to combat in Warhammer. Big words! And then the star, for instance, bolters, you hit on a 3, you wound on a 4, hope they roll below their save. Fairly standard. I think we all expected that from bolters. Right, let's break this down a little bit. I know that I've sort of given you my thoughts as we've gone through this article, but this is all, apart from me understanding stats aside, I just think that could have just been displayed better, is all I'll say. Or have that as a lowercase I, so it's different to a 1. But minor nitpicks aside, I really like this. This all sounds pretty good. I love that weapons have individuality in this game. That is the biggest thing going for it. And that Space Wolves look proper cool in grey instead of blue. But this is, I love this. This is really cool. Don't know what all the special rules mean, but I love that weapons, melee weapons and ranged weapons, have different feels, they have different jobs, they have that granularity that I really think is missing in 10th. I would be very happy if in 11th edition they incorporated elements of this and they made weapons truly unique. Add a little bit of complexity onto 10th edition. The core rules are fine, army building, weapon stats is far too simple. And everybody, I think everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody agrees. Certainly the people who have turned their back on 10th. Because it's lost something, it's lost its soul. Heresy has retained its soul. The tactical statuses, they're not stresses, tactical statuses that we talked about yesterday worry me. And how you show them and how you keep track of all of that really worries me. The fact that a bolter can, a full 20-man unit of Astartes can spit out 60 shots if you hit the right criteria, that's far too much. That's insane. But that is also Warhammer. They like you to roll a lot of dice. And it is very satisfying to be picking out 50 hits out of 60 dice. So I get it. It is that quick dopamine hit that I think we all crave as part of this hobby. But it is a lot of dice. Not many people will have hands big enough to hold 60 dice and roll them properly. But still, that's again just a minor nitpick from me. All of this sounds excellent, and if you wanted to sell me on Heresy, this is how you do it. You say, hey, look at these weapon profiles. Look at this individuality. You want different troops? This is what you've got. You can do all these cool things. Oh, you want to run Space Wolves? They gain this bonus on the charge. They gain this. That's how you sell me. You talk about all of the granularity and the interesting army building stuff. This article does exactly what it sets out to do and gets me, someone who isn't interested in 3.0, excited about 3.0 and learning more. Don't know what the challenge step is. We'll talk about that. Might be Monday, might not be Monday. I'm actually helping my girlfriend move house, so I don't know if I'm going to be around on Monday. Hopefully we'll be able to pick it up and it'll just drop late on Monday night. But next week is going to be, the rest of the month is going to be all over the place, in all honesty. There's a lot going on. But we'll take a look at that so I can maybe understand what the challenge step is and see how they've changed it. But this is a great article. I think this is a wonderful article to finish with on a Friday. My concerns may be unfounded with the tactical statuses. Got it right, yay me. But I think all of that, you just need to see it in action and figure it out as you go and actually see the whole thing. Because we only got a snippet. Again, we're just getting a snippet here. Like they say, there's hundreds of different weapons. But all of this sounds great. Do these changes need to have happened? Or are they just changing things for the sake of changing things? That's not something I can answer. I don't know old weapon profiles. But I do like the fact that the heavy special rule, actually does different things for different guns. I think that may make it a little bit confusing to get your head around. But the more that you play, the more you'll understand. You will know straight away. Heavy bolter, oh, I get +1 if I stay still. +1 shots if I stay still. Whereas with the las cannon, oh, I get +1 damage if I stay still. You will very quickly just link all of these stats in together, I think. The interesting thing, alright, we see Armor Bane here, and Armor Bane is mentioned on melter guns. But we haven't actually been shown off anything that talks about pinning, about suppression, about whatever the other two were. Routed doesn't really come into play with melee weapons, did it? Stunned. So, I wonder, because they did a big thing Wednesday, talking about how these tactical statuses link in with weapons. There's none of them mentioned here. So are they under special rules? Are they under traits? Does bolt trait mean that you would apply pinning if you do something? Does the las trait mean that that triggers one of these new statuses? We don't know how any of this links in, and I'm sort of hoping that they touch on that. Like, if somebody popped up and shot you with a melter, you'd dive for cover, wouldn't you? You'd be suppressed. Probably pinned. I don't know. I still don't like those traits. But this sounds great. I'm excited. Can you tell I'm excited? I don't even want to play the game and I'm excited. So hopefully the Heresy veterans are excited too. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.